Welcome back. If you just happen to tune in, this is Rise and Shine, your favorite morning show on Channel I. Sunday's edition on Rise and Shine. Yes, well, prior to the music break, we did mention that we'll be coming up with a guest on board to talk about a charity project, which is a new project, well, some people might know, some people might not know, but we'll be going in detail to see, what is it all about, where did it start, and likewise. So here with us, we have Mr. Pierre Singh, who's the founder of TandemVision. Well, a bit about his background. He has these goals, missions, objectives, everything towards his TandemVision, and he has a bit of a background towards the sporting side as well, which is why he started up this TandemVision, and also something to help to the society as well. A very good morning to you, Pierre.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm well,
morning?
Thank you. How are you?
Yes, keeping very well, Pierre. So, to start things off, now when I say TandemVision, not many people would know what it is all about. So if you could just briefly explain as to what this TandemVision is all about. Pierre.
Of course. So basically, I'll first give you the short version of it. So essentially, it's being registered as a legal charity. There are two primary objectives. The first primary objective is basically to make the joy of a bicycle ride available and accessible to the blind community as a whole in Sri Lanka. So that is done via a tandem bicycle. Some people don't know what it is, so I'll just give a basic explanation. A tandem bicycle is a bicycle that can be ridden by two people simultaneously. One person steers in front. That person is referred to as the pilot. Okay. I'm always looking for pilots, so if anyone wants, please contact me. Okay. The rear person is referred to as the stoker. Stoker, the English word means you give power. So basically what the stoker does is they give power to the captain or the pilot who's in front. So that being the primary objective. The secondary objective is to establish the Paracycling Federation in Sri Lanka. We don't have official Paracycling Federation representation in Sri Lanka, and build paracycling so that the blind community can then go for competitive sport and be officially represented. And the ultimate goal would be to go to the Paralympics and win silver, gold, bronze someday for Sri Lanka.
Yeah, it's I think an objective that I think a lot of viewers would be very enthusiastic about. Having some goals in athletic achievements would be a great thing. Pierre, how did this particular charity come about?
Okay, that's the long version of the story.
Yeah, okay.
So in 2016, my wife and I, we lost our only son at that time. We lost him to dengue. He passed away on the 1st of April in 2016. So after we lost him, she and I, we were really, really sad. I'm trying not to cry right now because it's making me emotional. So different people handle grief in different ways, and I wanted to do something to uplift my wife's spirits because she was really sad and heartbroken. She still is, but with time she has healed somewhat, though the wound is still there. Same way for me. So I started looking around for a tandem bicycle. The primary reason is because she can't ride a bicycle, and she still can't. So I started looking around for a tandem bicycle, and I started messaging people, asking them for a tandem bicycle if anyone knows where I could find one. This was just to get her out of the house, get her mind off things, and for us both to have a change of scenario during the weekends because we work full time. So this gentleman, he befriended me via Facebook, and he said, his almost verbatim words were, if it gives your wife any happiness, because I have children too, that is more than enough payment for me. And he didn't want any payment. In fact, it was a bike that was not being used, had not been used for some time. So he fixed it up the best he could, and he told me to come and pick it up, and I took it. And we started riding the bike on the weekends, and it became a regular thing, and we started enjoying it because it's a really, really nice thing to do together with a friend or a loved one. So as time went by, I told my wife, look, this is a bit of an old, broken down bike. Rather than invest in this bike, shall we buy a new bike? Because we're doing it regularly, it makes sense to invest in a new tandem bike. So yeah, she said okay, and then I started doing some research on tandem bikes, because you need to know a little bit about how tandem bikes work to invest in one, because you get the bikes that are cheaply built, which I discovered. If you buy one of those bikes because the experience is really bad and very difficult, then the pair can think, you and your partner or whoever, you all might assume that therefore tandem bicycling is not for you. But that's what happens when you buy a bicycle that's badly built.
Okay.
So during the course of my research to buy a new tandem bicycle, I discovered that people all over the world, they use tandem bicycles to take people in the blind community, children to adults, for bicycle rides. So this made a lot of sense to me because at that time, though now we are Sinhala Buddhists and we did all the traditional things that you do, the alms givings, etc. But I, in my heart, I didn't feel like we were doing anything to keep his memory alive. And I'm a very forgetful person, right? Now, if I ask one of y'all what y'all had 2 or 3 days ago for lunch, y'all might say y'all can't remember. So with me, it's like that. See, when people go, when they leave us, leave our lives, all we have is their memories. So because I'm a forgetful person, I wanted to keep his memory alive for myself and for other people. So in that way, it's a bit selfish because I want to keep my son's memory alive for myself and for my wife. So basically, after we found out about the fact that people use these bicycles to take this blind community around, I told her, you know, he couldn't ride a bicycle. He was too little. He was only 3. So I used to put him in the baby carrier. It's a little device you can strap onto your chest, and his feet would be dangling here in his hands. And I used to take him for bicycle rides that way, and he used to love it. He used to enjoy it. So I told her, you know, he couldn't ride a bicycle for himself because he was too little. These children can't ride a bicycle because they don't have their eyesight. So it makes sense to do this in his memory because it's such a fitting tribute. So that's how it kind of started. Then I contacted the blind school, and I knew that they are minors, so you know people might not be easy about letting me into the school and letting me do this. Fortunately, one of my friends was on the board of governors, and he was their official lawyer. So he spoke to them because he knew me personally, and he told them. So that helped it along. And I had actually no roadblocks. Literally, after just one conversation, literally the next week, I was there with the first 2 bicycles. And we took the children for rides. And it became a regular thing. Later on, as I kept doing it, word started spreading around and people started finding out. There is a lady who was, I think she's the past secretary now. Her name is Shalika Karunaratna. So she was the secretary at that time of the Sri Lanka Council for the Blind. Shalika contacted me and told me that what I started with TandemVision has kind of laid the platform and the groundwork and the foundation for something that they wanted to do for many years, but had no one that had the right motivation and place to come and help them with this. So basically she was telling me that now that they have a possibility to look at tandem by cycling from a competitive point of view, because the blind community, they have very few things which they can do in Sri Lanka, because also very few workplaces have accessibility to give and provide work opportunities for people like that. Yeah. There are some people who do give them opportunities, but it's still very limited. And one of those boys himself, when he found out that I was doing this, he was telling me, you know, if you can do this, this would be a great thing because there's so little that we can do. See, some people, society tends to marginalize them thinking that they are good for nothing. Yeah. They don't have their eyesight. That doesn't mean they're idiots. They are very, very intelligent people. They can do a lot of things that we can do. Sometimes they can even do much more than a person with normal vision can do. They could literally, you could say, see more than a normal person with 20/20 vision. So she spoke to me about this and told me about it. Then I started studying about the Paralympics. I started watching videos online and whatnot.
What are the status of tandem bike and Paralympians in Sri Lanka right now?
Okay, so this is a bit of a sore point. I write for a living. I work in advertising. So my command of the English language is somewhat better than the average person. So I use that to converse with the people in the UCI. UCI is Union de Cyclistes International, which is the International Cycle Federation. It's based in Switzerland. So I contacted their international paracycling coordinator, telling him I wanted to set up the Paracycling Federation in Sri Lanka. So over many months, over many correspondence, so many emails, up and down, we spoke and tried to get it to happen. But in his very own words, he was saying that Sri Lanka is not willing to help them establish the Paracycling Federation. Unfortunately for me, in any country, when you set up a Paracycling Federation, it has to go through the National Cycle Federation, because the National Cycle Federation is governed by the International Cycle Federation in Switzerland.
Yes, just to disturb you on that, Pierre, I think we can see on the screens right now with regards to these tandem bicycles. So it's basically 2 wheels, right? And then the person could sit behind.
Correct. The rear rider is referred to as the stoker.
Yeah.
The front one is referred to as the pilot or the captain.
So what does the rear rider do?
Well, the rear rider sits and cycles. They can't steer the bike. Only
Right.
the person, the pilot, can steer the bike.
So the pilot cannot sort of ride it, or rather he cannot.
No, the pilot
pedal.
can ride the bike. The
Okay.
pilot has to ride the bike. The pilot is the one that maintains the balance of the bike. And the bikes are designed for the heavier person to be in front, which is
Okay.
why even on the internet, if you see a picture of a pair riding a bike, you'll always see, if it's a couple, a man and a woman, or even a man and a man or a woman and a woman, normally the heavier person would sit at the front, because the center of gravity of the bike is maintained as long as the heavier person is in front.
Here,
Right.
what about the coordination required? How much coordination is required between the stoker and the pilot?
Okay, so unfortunately, when we go and do these rides, because, you know, people use tandem bicycles for corporate team building, because to ride a tandem bicycle means you have to work together with one another. But we don't have the luxury of time to spend with the different people, because there are so many children. And I also ride sometimes with the Sri Lanka Council for the Blind at Vihara Mahadevi on their bicycle path. Even when those children come, they are young adults, they're not children really. They're all over 18 and they're like 21, 24, 27, like that. Even when I ride with them, it's difficult. There are 1 or 2 boys who used to have vision, who had previously ridden bicycles. They can get it like that in one go, and they know how to complement the captain and ride the bike. Some children don't know, so it's difficult. So very often when we do these events, the pilot is on his or her own, because you can't expect them to give you the coordination you need. So you have to
It's a
sort
bit
of
a teamwork.
Yeah, you have to sort of manage to figure it out with them. Sometimes you need to look back and tell them to pedal, because the tandem bicycles I have don't have independent free wheels. Independent free wheels means, you know, when you cycle a bike and you stop, some people call it coasting or freewheeling. So when you stop, the wheels will keep turning, but the pedals won't move. Now, on the tandem bikes I have, they don't have independent free wheels, which means if the pilot pedals and stops, the stoker also has to pedal and stop, because the pedals move together. So sometimes when the pilot stops, like for example, you might come near a bump or you might be taking a turn, then you can't cycle. You have to coast or freewheel. Sometimes the children or the young adults behind you, they are like trying to pedal, so it's a little difficult. So for the people who are not as experienced, it's a lot to manage sometimes, because you have to maintain the balance of the bike. You have to tell them to, can you stop cycling for a minute, and you have to navigate also.
I guess when you're dealing with a visually impaired person, the verbal communication is much more important when it comes to...
Yes, you need to tell them, but with the children at the school, very often I find a lot of them, they are a little timid. I don't know, it might be because we don't know them that well, or they are not so outspoken, but there are some children who are very outspoken.
So, I mean, that leads to another question. I mean, you can add on. What is the change you have noticed with these children, especially coming out to your rides?
They look forward to it. They love it. There are some children who ask me about the Paralympics and what's happening, and I tell them it's like on the back burner, because it is on the back burner. Like, I haven't been able to do anything with regards to all the roadblocks I've had with it. So it's something they look forward to.
Yeah.
And
I think it's something that, I mean, if they don't get an opportunity to do a lot of athletic events, they would probably look forward to actually having athletic achievements under their belt.
I think with that
Yeah.
we can really see as to how this tandem bicycle works. This was not in Sri Lanka, I suppose.
no, this is something else, yeah.
Okay, so I think that's
It's a
just
clip
a
as to
hidden
how the tandem bicycle
operates.
operates. Yes, I think it's a bit of a coordination as well, like you did mention.
Yeah.
So Pierre, now for the visually impaired person to ride, along with a pilot, there has to be, there have to be volunteers as well, I suppose, who would come and do it because they can't do it by themselves. So how
Yeah.
does that work? How do you sort of get the people in place with regards to this foundation to help the others?
Okay, so before I answer that question, there is another thing I need to tell you because I'm also constantly correcting myself. There is a certain way we use the lingo, like when we speak about a blind person, that is the incorrect way to refer to them. We have to always put the disability second. We don't define the person by the disability. So if you were blind, it would be incorrect of me to say, she's a blind person. I would say you're a person that is blind, because then your disability doesn't define you.
Yes.
I'm also always constantly correcting myself
Yeah.
because I'm still getting used to it, but I'm just telling you because I'm making the mistake and you're also making the mistake. So we just need to try and be politically correct. So anyway, to answer your question, basically I have a Facebook page for TandemVision, and I also have a WhatsApp group onto which I add my pilots so that they know when there's an event happening. As much as possible, I don't speak to people personally or individually asking them to come for a bicycle ride. I let them ask me because I don't want people to feel obliged to come and ride a bicycle saying, oh, he asked me, I should go. So I want it to come from them. So basically, the best mode of communication I have found so far is through word of mouth by using WhatsApp. Facebook also sometimes works, but it's not as effective as it used to be.
Pierre, can you mention the Facebook page to our viewers?
So it's fb.com/TandemVision, TandemVision.
All right. Pierre, thank you for joining us. That was a very informative segment.
I mean, we would love to go talking about this, but then unfortunately the time is really catching up. But yes, I mean, it's a great work from your end and from your wife as well to make this foundation, come in place and help the people out there.
Yeah.
So yes, with that, Pierre, thank you very much for joining us once again and educating our viewers on this charity.
It was my
program.
pleasure. Thank you for having me. I would like to show this, if the camera could zoom in on this. This is our son, Siddharth. It was in his memory that this was all started, and this will continue.
All right. Pierre, I think a lot of emotion right there.
Yeah.
With that, we will wind up today's edition of Rise and Shine. Thank you for joining us. Do join us next time. Till then, bye-bye.